All right, here we are at Contact of the Desert, and I have Patrick here, and I have Vinnie over here, both podcasters, and of course all your show links will be in down below. And
they better be.
Yeah. And, have you guys been enjoying yourselves?
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. How about you, Vinnie?
Amazing event. Yeah, really enjoying it. There's so much to do and so many people to see and hang out with. So it's just, I love it.
You know what I always say at these type of events is, it's the hallways that are, you know, not to take anything away from the lectures because they're interesting, but it's the people you meet in the hallways and the connections. I mean, it's invaluable. I mean, it's just such a great thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I say exactly the same to people. Whenever I go to a conference like that, it is those in between little meetings you have. You just make connections, and
That's right.
And it just shows how everyone, whether they have varying opinions, gets on in person. You know, it's a whole different ball game compared to online.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, that's right, and it's amazing how you know. I mean, you come to a place like this, and you think you're going to do one thing, and then you end up doing all different other kinds of things. But you know, by the time you get done, you go home with a pocket full of business cards and you know, people you've connected with. Yeah. So one of the things I thought was really funny today, down in the mezzanine or whatever it's called down there, is someone said, "Oh, they introduced me, and oh, this is a podcaster," and the guy looked at me and go, "Well, who isn't a podcaster?" You know. And when I started, I know I sound like an old man, but when I started, it was so difficult to do a podcast. I mean, I had to pay. You know what an RSS feed is for your audio, right? Yeah. I had to pay $1,200 to a guy to make me one of those in 2009. That was 2009 when I first started podcasting. It was Antiques and Art. That's what it's in. But that's how it was then. And now, what is it? A push of a button, and you can be a podcaster in a few minutes. So let's start with you, Patrick. What got you interested in actually? You do a lot on the UFO topic, and what caused your interest in that?
Into just UFOs in general?
Yeah.
You know, I've always been interested in, you know, the unknown, but especially the idea of life outside of Earth. So I loved X-Files growing up, which is why in my background I have the poster, I Want to Believe. I knew that was the first thing I bought. Like, this has to be, because that's such a big influence on me, was the X-Files. But, you know, Close Encounters, any movie that would come out, I would Fire in the Sky. Oh my God, I used to love that movie.
Oh yeah.
So I think it was more topical, you know, surface level, interested, but it wasn't part of my daily life by no means. So being able to start vetted, you know, I'm getting into the nooks and crannies in a way I would never be able to. You know what I mean? To take the topic on in just a more, you know, time, right? You can dedicate more time.
Yeah.
So that's really just all that changed. I've always been interested in the topic, but my availability of time to invest in the topic changed.
Plus the platforms. You have the platform to do it. I mean, you know, just think about a few years ago, people were just on the radio, you know, and now we have you know, YouTube and all these things we could have never imagined in any type of way.
Absolutely. Yeah. The internet, right? Like, revolutionized.
And to remember before and after that, you know, is really.
Oh yeah. No, I lived to Lab 45. I mean, I definitely did not grow up with the internet. Or social media or any of that stuff. I probably would have done YouTube in high school though if I had it. I have a feeling I was that kind of kid. Like I would have been all over that shit.
We'll talk about social media too because I think that's really a topic to touch on about you. And how about yourself, Vinnie? How did you get interested in the subject?
I spent a lot of my 20s and 30s just navigating my way through fringe subjects and reading books and just. I would always find a subject, read up on it, and move on to another one. But when I found UFOs. Something sparked that hadn't sparked in those previous subjects, and this was around 2009, 2010, and you know, I was following Richard Dolan from the start, and then I did come across your show, and you used to do it with Alejandro Rojas.
Oh yes,
I've been listening for years, and so I didn't want to just. I researched for a long time, just looking at documents in archives for so many years and years and years, and it wasn't until the pandemic yet that I started doing more and found the community through social media, which led on to YouTube to wanting to put out content. And it's just, I've not had a second to stop and really look back. It's just been a constant flow for about 4 or 5 years now.
Now, I got to ask both of you, I'll ask one at a time, but when I first started looking at YouTube, I started mine in 2011, but when I first started looking at YouTube, I got sucked into some of these, CGI, and there's I think it was in, I'm trying to think it was in Tahiti or something, there's these UFOs going over a palm tree, and it's like, oh my God, and it ends up being CGI, and then I saw how that was done, and and what made the determination that it was CGI and all that. But I guess I always try to help people when they're first getting into the topic, so they don't go down the wrong path. And I even did this with there's a major person in the UFO world in Washington that I helped to do that that was going to get in trouble, I have to say. But anyway. I'll start with you. How did you determine what was real and and stay away from the fringe?
I think I learned the hard way because when I was doing social media at first, I was posting a lot of just videos that I'd see online and more to give the audience things to look at and make their own minds up. But then I realized maybe I was just feeding this constant flow of fake and hoax videos, so I immediately stopped. Took a step back and then started speaking with people who can analyze these things. And so then when I would put something out, I'd say, this has been analyzed and, they can't determine what it is, but it's an object, it's there. So adding a little bit more credibility and not just posting whimsically. And then I realized that there's just such an influx, I stopped posting that kind of content altogether. And just to not muddy the waters any further. It's so difficult.
It is, and it's it's a way you learn. We all make mistakes, and I've made mistakes. And how about yourself?
Yeah, I've made lots of mistakes. Great segue. I was like, and you, Patrick, you've made mistakes. Yes, I think we all have. There's that shock initially when you see something, and then you maybe look into it and go, oh, okay, let's take a step back here. Getting other people's opinions, of course. But yeah, it's kind of an impossible task, really, right? At the end of the day, I don't know. I've interviewed lots of people who sort of explained it this way. They have like a series of boxes, and they just insert that event or data or whatever into boxes like, yeah, maybe pretty compelling, maybe not so compelling, maybe and then just leave it there. Move on to the next thing and not worry about it. I mean, unless it's just downright obvious, but even that, could be argued. If something is that obvious. People just see things so differently. So, I don't know. I feel my job as a creator is not to actually make that determination.
Okay, let the people make that determination.
Correct. Because I don't
think I do that myself.
Who am I to know?
Yeah.
Who am I to know at the end of the day? But I'm also can understand another creator who goes, no, I have a set of rules and this is what I follow. No problem. I want you to just do whatever they feel comfortable. That's what I feel comfortable with. Just letting people decide for themselves. Of course, there's going to be random choices, here or there, for whatever reason. That you may not cover something, time, whatever, just whatever. I think you just critically think, put your best foot forward, and cross your fingers and hope for the best. And rely on other people. I think that's a big thing, a key. Have a group of people you talk with and, get feedback, hear how they think, and try to make sure that those people think differently than you.
Yeah.
That's important.
When I first started the show, in about 2012 or something like that, I was contacted by this woman and a long-time UFO researcher, enthusiast, whatever you want to call her, in Las Vegas. Became really good friends with her. She's an older woman, and she's cranky as hell. Her name is Peggy, and she read me the riot act, you don't do that. It's great, And she was just trying to help me, and she did help me a lot. And I still have. She has some medical issues right now, but I still have, a real warm place in my heart for her. Because she helped me along the way not make more mistakes that I would have made without her. So I have to ask, where are you from?
I'm from Texas, really. I grew up in Texas.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
And have you ever done any, say, for the Marfa lights or the Lubeck lights. What am I thinking of? Have you looked into like historical cases?
I've been out to Marfa. I've seen the Marfa lights.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I played the Marfa Music Festival in 2014.
Oh, you're a musician?
I was.
Uh-huh.
You know, I played here and there.
Yeah.
And we drove out to Marfa. You can see them from a town called Alpine as well. Because the lights are like out. Marfa's a city. You know, you got Marfa, Alpine, lights. Right, so.
Have they tried to...
You just stop on the side of the road, you just look out.
Yeah. You
Honestly,
think it's a natural phenomenon? Or
no,
something?
it's car lights. It's headlights.
I think
everyone
on a mountain...
everyone in the towns knows what it is.
I see.
The folklore lives on, and it's kind of fun to think that, but it's, there's just like a little, I don't know if I'd call it a mountain, but, you know, where there's roads, and that's just headlights. It's all it is. But everyone knows that there.
Yeah,
I
see.
It's not a mystery there.
Yeah, but there are some incidences. There's the Stephenville incident.
Stephenville, for sure.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
amazing.
And the Lubbock one is, the Lubbock has a lot of history there. Yeah, which is interesting, which is different.
Yeah, I think there was if I recall that Lubbock, that's when, wasn't it like college professors or something out taking pictures or something? Yeah. But they're fantastic pictures anyway. Yeah. You know, and they are in the Stephenville, let's see, Robert Powell has done a Cash Landrum case. Yeah, I was lucky enough to interview the son, what's his name? Colby. Colby Landrum.
Okay.
Colby Landrum.
Got it.
Yep. And one of the rare interviews out there, because I get contacted from like publicists, they want me to connect them and all that, but he's not doing anything. But yeah, that's
you got one interview with.
I did get
okay,
one.
good. Well, there you go.
Yeah. But the thing of it is you know, that one, some people are pretty convinced that it was probably ours and probably something that went astray, you know, like a nuclear propulsion.
Yeah,
or something
I've
like
seen.
that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, they were transporting it.
Yes.
Right, with helicopters and allegedly, right? Like, But clearly, those women, especially, you know, physical effects that were pretty
terrible.
I mean, downright terrible. They died from cancer. I mean, we're talking like it's no joke. Clearly, something happened to them on that day, right? And then there are details of what happened in the car, sort of melting and this, that, the other. I mean.
That's right in the
definitely sounds like some sort of radiation or high intense heat. That's a fascinating case.
And Colby remembers, when I talked to him, he remembers crawling under the dash, which is a good thing.
Oh yeah,
but he's had some medical issues too.
Sure.
You know, which you'd only expect after all that.
Sure.
But
yeah. Yeah. No, Texas is it's a great state.
It's huge.
Yeah. What if we didn't have any sightings there? That would be odd.
Very.
So they got too many guns in Texas. Let's stay out of there.
I knew it. I flew with this guy that said he did a study in high school. He grew up in Texas.
Yeah.
And he said that if you gave 10 people an acre of land or something like that, I can't remember what it is, you could fit every single person in the world in Texas.
Yeah, wow. I've heard that stat.
Which is really
I say that stat. Yeah.
You'd have a problem with plumbing or something.
Yeah. I think it's, I'd heard it, I guess I'd heard it, every person could get 10 by 10.
Something
maybe whatever it is, everybody in the world can fit in Texas.
He was in school when he did that in the 70s or 60s, so way back. But okay, now it's your turn. Where are you from?
So I live in Sheffield in the north of England.
Beautiful.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah.
And do you do any looking at historical cases? Are there any? I can't think of any coming to mind in the Sheffield area.
There is one from the 90s, which I've been out on location and that, but the witnesses aren't really around anymore. I have done investigations. I've travelled to Colombia to do some investigations on cases there. But it's difficult in the UK. There's very little history there, to be honest, other than the obvious cases like Rendlesham. I was part of the team that released the Calvin photograph back in 2022. That was a really in-depth investigation to get that released. So
is that right?
Yeah.
That's major.
Yeah, it's really good. I
worked
with Dr. David Clark, who was the lead on that, and I travelled with him eventually up to Scotland to do the handover of the photograph, the original from Craig Lindsay, the ex-RAF press officer. It was,
Oh, that must have been so cool.
it was incredible.
That is
Yeah,
amazing.
really good.
Yeah. Now, I was sat with James Fox last night when he filmed his movie.
Yeah.
When he screened his movie, and that was a lot of fun. He kept jabbing, oh, this is, you know, like that. So it was fun to do that. But when they get to the Calvine image, I love the part where the cook is talking, and that whole thing came about. I've talked to James about it. That came in like his movie was just about in the can. Like, this guy's not getting back to me. He's ghosting me, and, you know, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he calls like the day before they want to put this film out.
Oh, shit.
And he's recording it on his cell phone, talking like this to the guy. The guy's hilarious.
Yeah, Richard Grieve.
It's pissing rain out there.
yeah.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, it was really funny. But so, yeah, you had that, and you just mentioned Rendlesham Forest. That's I think I've always said that's up in the top 5, you know, UFO
That's a rare
encounters.
case, yeah.
Absolutely, it's such
Like
a complex case with so many witnesses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of them
John
that
Burroughs.
stays in the conversation, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'll ask either one of you. Do either one of you have like consider like a favorite case that's like really convincing case? I know mine, and
What's yours?
Ariel, the Ariel school
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
incident,
Oh, that's a
Zimbabwe.
That's
You know what I mean? Just I've talked to a number of the witnesses, and poor Emily Trim, we lost her last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think
I was
that one
talking
is.
to Luigi from
Yeah.
Project Gravatar about her.
Yes.
They were close.
They were, yeah. I met them both together in Phoenix a number of years ago
Yeah.
when he was with her there. But anyway, I love that case. I just think it's so convincing, and I just have to tell you a funny story. You know, like I'm thinking my sister's visiting. Her husband, my brother-in-law, great guy, former scientist at Los Alamos Labs. He was in the nuclear arms inspection or something like that. Really top of clearance that you can have. And so I asked him, I said, well, what do you think about the UFO topic? Do you think that extraterrestrials could be visiting us? And he goes, it's very possible. It was like that. And my sister's like, don't want to hear it. I want to. So I said, my sister was visiting me, and I said, okay, what am I going to do to show my sister, like, there's really something to this?
Yeah.
So we sat down and we'll watch the aerial phenomenon, Randall Nickerson's film on the, you know, I got like partway through it, she's like watching it, and then I'm looking, she's starting to look at her phone, and then what's for dinner? You know, it's just, you can't, I mean, to me, I don't know how you both feel, but I think this is the most amazing puzzle that we have to solve.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, but some people, it just doesn't, we're a very small niche.
Sure.
Yeah.
We really are.
Sure.
You know, even though, you know, we may have a lot of people that listen to our show or watch our shows or whatever, we're just a small niche in society. I mean, if you...
That niche is getting bigger.
Oh, it is.
Oh yeah, it's growing.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of, you know, I love the fact that News Nation, when I interviewed Ross, you know, we're talking about News Nation and how they're like tackling this, and how, you know, it's just getting more and more exposure, but the mainstream media is not quite there yet. But, so, you know,
CNN's here.
Yeah.
That's right. They
So
interrupted my interview yesterday. They left their equipment in here.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So, do you have like a favorite case or?
That's a really good question. I mean, definitely, you know, Vanessa, you know, it's like, I don't know. The aerial one's a good one. That's definitely in the top for me. I don't know if there's one particular, you know, the Nimitz, I know it's kind of cliche, but the Nimitz case is pretty fascinating to me.
Yeah,
because of the layers.
That's
you
my
know?
second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the layers of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But Roswell is also, you know, there's something about that case that is still dynamic,
Mhm.
you know, that lives on. I don't know, there's something about probably those two
Yeah,
cases.
yeah. And
That's
when
hard. That's such
I don't
a
know if
hard
you've ever
question,
been like
you know.
debating any part of that, but you know, the one
Oh,
thing,
wait, which one?
Roswell.
Oh, Roswell.
You know, it's one of the things that I'll say, okay, just in the first place, why would the Army Air Force publicized that they captured a saucer.
Right.
You know, I mean, just that alone, it's like, I mean,
Well,
would they
someone
make that
would
type
argue-
of mistake?
Someone would argue, yeah, they realized that and retracted it the very next day.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
we're like, well, what are you doing? Why would you print that? Why would you print that? Tell them it's a balloon, you know, send it
Yeah.
in again, change it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that happening too. That's the thing. There's so many like parts to it. It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie. You know, there's just so many layers to it
Yeah.
that are so fascinating. And new details keep coming out. You got like that helmet. That's probably the thing that fascinates me the most about that whole case.
I'm not sure I know about that helmet.
The helmet from Roswell?
Yeah.
Danny Sheehan talks about it, yeah. Allegedly they found this helmet that, you know, potentially controlled the craft or whatever. But yeah, there was a helmet.
I have not heard that. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah.
Wow.
See?
Yeah, see?
See,
Yeah,
new
yeah.
thing, even though it's an old case, it's still like, it's still relevant and still comes up a lot.
That's right. And,
And
you
it
know,
gains
the
credibility
investigators-
actually with more time, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and then, you know, I mean, a lot of there's the deathbed confessions, a lot of them where
Exactly.
people felt like they were finally free enough to talk
Sure.
about it.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
yeah, I mean, that is a very deep one there because you look at
Sometimes
there
people
was
forget about
600.
it.
Yeah,
Because it's like, oh, Roswell, and
Yeah.
move on to this character,
Yeah.
you know, but like, no, why,
yeah,
why, this one's so compelling, let's
yeah.
really pull it apart, sorry, I didn't mean.
No, that's all right. There was like 600 witnesses at one time
Yeah.
were interviewed about this in different ways through Tom Carey, Don Schmidt,
Shit.
Kevin
I
Randall,
didn't know that.
all that. Oh yeah, but now, of course, 1947, they're all. I think there was one left, but I think
Was that
I think that
80?
person's.
No,
It's
it's
all-
80 years.
I flunked math. But anyway, it's a long time ago. And there was-
78.
even if someone was a little kid, you know, what would they remember at that point? If they
Sure.
were little?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's an interesting case, and I always, you know, wonder exactly what happened with the material from there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, the
Yeah.
right kind of,
What was that foil material that like,
yeah,
you
It
would,
bends.
Like, yeah, just
it would form back on itself,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
but you hit it with a hammer. I remember that guy.
Yeah,
telling me
yeah,
that.
yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the ranchers, the farmers, the police involvement, it going to Wright Patterson, or, yeah, it might have gone to Wright Pat, but it went to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Very close, which is another connection to JFK later on, because JFK was in Fort Worth before he went to Dallas,
Right.
you know, the day before. There's just a lot of weird things, you know, Army cover-up, you know, just a lot of things, just so
Oh,
many
yeah.
weird things about it. The publication, right, the newspaper that
Yeah.
we were kind of joking about earlier, even that aspect to it. So, I don't know, I just think
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
And to hear how the funny thing is like that was completely a nothing for so many years until Stanton Friedman was at a radio show and someone didn't show up or whatever, and he was waiting there and say, hey, there's this guy over in Homer, Texas, or where, Arkansas, or something like that, I forget where it is, Jesse Marcel.
Yeah.
And he says, he talks about a flying saucer, and that's how that all came out.
Yeah.
Was Stanton Friedman, the great Stanton Friedman.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's that whole thing. But, you know, it seems to me there are people I've heard that, oh yeah, we knew about it, we just didn't talk about it.
Sure.
You know, like it wasn't completely, it was a cover-up, of course, I
Sure.
think.
Sure.
And Stanton Friedman used to say the government lied 6 times about Roswell. He'd go through how many times they lied.
Well, all the debunks they tried. What was it? The dummies. They,
Yeah.
Oh,
they like
yeah,
some
yeah,
balloon, then
yeah.
the- you know what I mean? The photos. There was something weird about the photos. Didn't Danny Sheehan? They got the original negatives from. They met the photographer who took those pictures. They got the original negatives.
Yes.
Were able to go in and blow up and look at
They're trying to
at
see the document.
At the yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were able to read that. I'm just saying, there's just a lot of.
They can
And
read
I'm very
almost this,
skeptical,
like-
but that's a very compelling case.
Yeah, there's one of the words that makes it sound that
Like
really
something-
convincing.
Yeah, yeah.
And
what
I
was
forgot
it?
what the
I can't
word is,
remember
but
either.
yeah.
There was a couple sentences or something there that was like
I think the word was casualties or something like that.
there was something there
Some
that made
word
it
like
was
that.
like this is not a balloon, you know,
Yeah.
exercise
It's
or
anomalous.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's fascinating. And I don't know if we'll ever know. That's one of those cases We just don't know if we'll ever.
Well, we keep getting further from the time it happened.
Exactly.
So.
And it kind of grows a little fantasy of its own with the
100%.
parade every year and
Yeah.
the people all dressed up crazy and
Sure.
stuff, and it kind of creates its own type of thing.
Well, they're finding like, we found bodies, you know, Hal Puthoff has, I think, said that allegedly to Luis Elizondo. He wrote that in his book. You know, the bodies, what else? Yeah, just other people coming out talking about it. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's controversy about that geological college grouping that supposedly came across the other section that supposedly landed elsewhere the size of a Volkswagen.
There was other
Yeah.
you know, how many crash sites did it,
Yeah,
you know, bounce
supposed to be
off?
two.
And,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Two. Was there two craft? Remember, I think Luis Elizondo has said there was two craft and one took off. The one at Roswell crashed and the other one got away, or, you know, took off.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just saying, it's like, what the hell's going on? What happened here?
yeah,
What happened here?
yeah. So that is a great mystery. How about
Yeah.
yourself? Do you have any, like, one case you like over another?
I always find myself going back to this one case in 1956 at RAF Lakenheath in the UK. It was a joint UK RAF US Air Force facility. So radar had captured these objects flying across from mainland Europe that tracked at thousands of miles an hour. This is 1956. You then had British RAF pilots sent up to intercept, and they couldn't get behind this object. It just kept jumping around them and things like that. So they've got a pilot. I've heard the audio testimony of these pilots. I've been lucky enough to hear that. It was featured in Project Blue Book as one of the 701 cases that they just could not attribute to any kind of explanation. So that always comes back because it's got so many data points. It's got the witnesses on both sides because files were released in the UK archive, so you can compare the Blue Book files in the US with the UK files, with the testimony, with the radar data. 1956, something tracked at that speed. It's very compelling.
Now, there was a case that they were going over the English Channel in a plane where these people saw all the witnesses.
Commercial plane.
It was a small commercial plane.
I think I'm familiar with
And
it.
they were the size, I forget what they were. They were yellow, and there were these huge objects sitting in front of all these witnesses. That one is very compelling.
Is that the one where the pilot came forward?
The pilot, but the people backed him up.
Right, okay.
The passengers, they all saw it. It was one of these planes where they could all see out the cockpit.
Right,
because
okay.
of seating in the back, type of thing.
Was that the 80s?
Oh, like
maybe?
a
I think it was in
Cessna.
the 80s.
Yeah, I think I know which one you
Maybe it
mean.
was a Cessna.
It was a bigger plane. It was like a 12-seater plane or something
Okay.
like that. But anyway, that's a fantastic case.
Yeah,
I
I never heard of that.
But I always go back to a few cases I try, Nimitz I always speak about.
Yeah.
There's another case in Holland called Soesterberg. It was a joint US-Dutch military base, and there was nukes apparently stored there. And one night there were troops on the flight line, pitch black, dark at night, and this giant black triangle just flew in right over the base. Multiple witnesses. I've spoken to some of the people who were involved with the case.
Wow.
And what year was this again?
1978.
Yeah, that's so amazing because I have a friend that has an auction gallery. He has a secretary there, and he said, "Oh, I see you do something at UFOs," and he was cool about it. And she goes, "Oh, I got to tell you a story." I said, "What?" She said, "In 1978."
Oh, right.
She said she was in Ipswich, Massachusetts, with her aunts. They were in the vehicle and they were driving along, and they were by a field. All of a sudden, this big, huge black triangle just appeared, and then it came right over the car.
Oh.
She told her aunt to stop the car. She said, "I got out of the car." She has a terrible Boston accent. "I got out of the car," and she said it just stayed above us. And she said, and all of a sudden, it just shot off like a bullet, like that. Now that's 1978. Now the reason I want to focus on that a little bit is because when you talk to people and they talk about the black triangles, what's the first thing they say? It's probably one of ours.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have that type of technology in 78
I wouldn't have thought so.
and hide it all this time. I mean, I don't know what your opinions are on that. But I
Well,
don't see
that
it
doesn't
possible.
mean there could be cases where that is the case. We did have that
Absolutely.
technology, but other cases that it's not that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like both can be true.
That's
Yeah.
true.
You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it doesn't by confirming that this case was XYZ doesn't then dismiss the other cases.
No.
One case that never dismisses another, but I would also argue one case doesn't confirm another.
Sure.
Yeah.
you know, both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great cases, Vinny. Both you all that you brought up.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. All right, so I got to ask this question because it always seems to come up.
Scorpio.
Just kidding. I mean, I personally, you know, I don't know if you want to hear my opinion, but
Of course.
I don't think, I say this often on my show, that I don't think the government actually knows 100% of what's going on. Because they don't know our government, I'm talking about, not your government, I don't know what your government knows. But I think because they don't know 100% of what's going on, they can't say that they can protect us from whatever it is, whether it's hostile or not. I think they know more than we do, but not the whole picture. So I think disclosure would be a really tough thing to actually force our way through, unless we get some type of forced disclosure. I was doing an interview earlier with NPR, and they asked me about what I thought about the current administration in the United States. And I said, well, you know, he does things to distract, you know, maybe that would be a good distraction. But I don't know if he's going to be the disclosure president or not. I don't know. What's your opinions of where you think?
I tend to agree. I think the information is so fragmented. I think there's even probably people buried within these programs that someone knows something, someone else knows something else. They never communicate. There's not one area where all this information is stored and pulled together. And I think there's huge gaps in that. And I think that's one of the reasons why they, haven't disclosed probably is the embarrassment. To say that they don't know and they can't protect the airspace and the general public from whatever this is.
It's a lot of questions.
Yes.
What do you think about the whole thing?
There's a good answer. I don't know. I think a lot of that makes sense. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I would love to give this badass answer where everyone's like, ooh. I don't have it. I don't know.
It's tough, isn't it?
It's so
really
confusing.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That searching for the answers is, one, a waste of time. And two, the search will probably be forever, right? It's like they just keep you busy. And you're confused by everything.
Yeah. There's disinformation.
Like, it worked, guys. It worked. You did it.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been a lot of times I felt like things were moving forward, and then they seem to step back.
Sure.
Now, I got to tell you something. I know you guys were probably not paying attention to this back when this happened. Have you heard about the Roswell alien slides?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
very familiar with that.
I don't know.
All right. So I can't remember what year. I want to say 2015.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It was not long before the 2017 stuff happened, but yeah.
So someone claimed they had these slides that were found in an estate sale, and that they were, and it was 1947, and they think they were the Roswell aliens, basically. Okay. So Jaime was saying down in Mexico somehow got involved in it. No comment. And so they ended up having like a Cinco de Mayo day, and actually Richard Dolan was involved, and he regrets it and doesn't want to talk about it. But anyway, they had this big deal where they were revealing the slides, and we were all going to get to see the aliens. And I was like, wow, this is really going to move the needle. This is really big.
We did it.
Really big. And we finally got. So they showed the slide, and the very first thing I went, what is that? That's not. And it wasn't even. It was hours. There was a placard, but a blurry placard. Oh, man. The placard was blurred. Within hours, people figured out what the placard said, and it was a mummy, an indigenous mummy in a museum. A picture of that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's what that was. So you feel like you're moving forward, and the press is involved.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, the press gets involved.
Wow.
So the press is like, oh my God, this is the answer, and now, and then we look like fools, egg on our face, and it's like, so we move back. So anytime something happens like that, now it's like, okay, we may do something, but it's always with caution.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's smart either way, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to learn from those mistakes.
It
was. I remember it because it was the way it was hyped up.
It was
really right up until that reveal day.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, this is how I saw the subject pre-2017. Is it had flatlined for years. There was
Yeah.
very little forward momentum. There was
Right.
It was talking and going over a lot of the same information and same cases. I mean, that's all there was. I'm not complaining or saying
Sure.
anyone could have done any better, but so when something like that came along, it was suddenly leading up to this big crescendo of oh god, it was
That's
Yeah.
horrible.
bad.
That's
Yeah.
horrible.
But so that's just something we all have to be,
Yeah.
aware of.
Very
And,
much so. Yeah.
I think Lou Elizondo with those mistakes with his pictures, I don't think that helped him any. And, vetted, that's the name of your podcast. they got to, there's got to be vetting and these type of things. Now, those people had that slide for like a year, and there was more than one. But what did they do with it? They did, the proper thing to do with it is get it analyzed, not make this big circus. Get it analyzed, get all the information, and then do something if it's like you can't figure it out. But no, it was a money situation, unfortunately.
Why isn't there like some central place to go where things do get vetted by everyone uses it?
Yeah,
Everyone can, utilize those resources, right? Because not everyone has the resources to
yeah.
really vet something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think
So,
the
having a
SCU would be a good
central
place.
Yeah.
The SCU
Some
would be a
place
good
where
place like that.
every picture, video, that's where it
But then you
goes
come
to the
across the
system.
same problem, which is the funding mechanism for things
Sure.
like that. Because
Yeah.
outside of government,
You pay to get your
Where
photo
do you-
vetted.
monthly
You
just-
pay. It's
Yeah.
$100. You pay.
Yeah.
You send it in, and here's my photo. Vet it for me. Or here's my video. It's $500 for video, and if it's if it's more than 3 minutes, and it's this much.
That's
I'm just
fair.
saying, and you
Yeah.
could get the information. It'll give you a response back, and people can. I don't know, and people like Lou Elizondo and other people who. Dude, I totally get it. It's not like Lou Elizondo has a staff of 100 people waiting to anything he has, he can send it to them, and they'll quickly get it back to him. And he's not James Bond, he's got Q working there. So but if there was a place that your Lou Elizondos, your Jeremy Corbells, your anybody, your Ross Coulthards can, even podcaster can take either maybe not a person yet, but photos, videos, documents, physical evidence, and it can go there, get vetted, and then they can get some sort of report back of, oh, okay, this is reliable, not reliable, and it becomes like a standard of some sort. I don't know.
Well,
I don't
MUFON
know.
does,
Just,
video
spitballing.
and photo analysts without a charge, which is
Yeah.
good. But it's hard to get things
Everything's all
through
over
them.
the place.
Yeah, but I just got to tell you, Mark D'Antonio, who is here, is their photo and video analyst.
Yeah.
And so I just got to tell you a funny story. So I decided in 2016, I think it was, that I was going to drive from Maine, where I was living at the time, to Phoenix.
Okay. Oh,
And I went through Texas.
Yeah.
And so I drove all the way there, and I'm taking pictures of the desert along the way and whatever. So I'm looking at my pictures, and I'm out there, and I said, oh my God, there's a flying saucer in the picture. I mean, look, just like a flying saucer, exactly, in the picture looking out the window. So I showed Mark D'Antonio, who was there, and I said, hey Mark, what do you think of this? I didn't see it, I just took the picture, and I was all excited and everything, like it goes, let me take a look. He's looking at me, and he goes, I think you might have something on your window. So come on. So I went out to the car, and sure enough, there's a little tiny piece of straw. If you go inside, it looks just like a little
right.
red.
Oh wow.
So
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah.
I think it's
So-
a pretty common mistake.
yeah.
That is a funny story.
Yeah. So I had a UFO sighting in 2007. I've told it enough for the people that watch my show. I don't need to tell that again. But still, I've seen a couple things since then, and because I do my show, I'm just really cautious about talking about it because I don't want to lose credibility by, I don't know what I saw, but I have seen some.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with telling what you saw and just leaving it at, I don't know what it was, but this is what I experienced.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't think you'd lose your credibility.
Yeah. All right, everyone. So I was in my hot tub again in South Carolina. That's when I was in. I had a hot tub experience where I had my first UFO sighting in California.
okay.
But I was literally in my hot tub in South Carolina last year, when I watched this light come in like that. It was coming in slowly, like I thought it was a plane or maybe a satellite, and then all of a sudden it went like that.
It's changed. Yeah.
It changed the direction.
Sure.
So, and it was really high up in the air. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
And it was a light in the sky, and people used to say, "Oh, that's not a UFO. That's a light in the sky." So I saw a light in the sky that was interesting. That's all.
It moved in a very particular way,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
It
very
didn't shoot
interesting
off
way.
though. It kind of stayed the same speed, but still, it made a direct, right angle turn.
That's
But
more
I
than
don't know
I've
what
seen.
it was.
That's
Yeah,
more than I've seen. I've seen
Wow.
nada.
yeah. And you know what? That's good. It doesn't matter. And Stan Friedman never saw a thing. And all these people that are iconic, Stephen Bassett, who's here, never saw a thing. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's better to say that than make something up, which I know another person has done, because I interviewed him years ago. I said, what got your interest in it? He said, well, I read this book and blah, blah, blah. I really got interested, as a bookworm, blah, blah, blah. Then years later, he's at conferences talking about his 9-year-old sighting when he's fishing on a dock. And
You were like, wait a second.
all of a sudden he had a sighting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, so we get
Yeah.
into a little bit of a debate over that.
Yeah, it happens for sure. I'm pretty aware. I think we all are aware that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, guys. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you.
A real pleasure.
This is awesome.
So
Thank
before
you.
we stop, just a little
Yeah.
bit of information about where people can find your show and
Sure.
how often you do it, all that.
Yeah, check out Betted, BETTED. Pretty much every day. I do miss some few,
Do you
some
really?
days. Yeah, I miss some days here and there.
Wow.
That happens. But I'll put out a couple sometime, on the same day. But yeah, Betted, check it out. Appreciate Martin and Vinny. This is awesome.
Okay. And yourself?
Yeah, Disclosure Team on YouTube, probably around one interview a week, generally. So
I can't believe you guys put out that much. Oh my God. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Remember to keep your eyes to the sky. Bye.